off of that, right? Okay, so we are started, and I'll try to keep an eye out, see if anyone joins us. So far, there's no one there, but it's serving a function as a recorder. And please, if anyone who would like to sit a little closer, I don't think things will be thrown. Yeah, maybe they are, you know. I would like to start us off with a blessing that may sound familiar to you. Been amended a little bit. Thank you, dear Lord. The road rose up to meet us. The wind was always at our back. The sun shone warm upon our faces. The rains fell soft upon the fields. Now that we are together again, Lord, we pray continue to hold us in the palm of your hand. Amen.
Amen.
So, I'm going to turn things over to Jim. I wasn't here, so I have a very loose structure in mind. And my loose structure is kind of this. And we might talk a little while about what happened on weekends at our worship times. And then we might spend some time talking about what happened in the life of the church, kind of the regular things that kind of come and go weekly or monthly. And then the special stuff, or the things we didn't touch on yet, you know. But that's about as much structure as I wanted to try to put in place around this, and really leave room for the Holy Spirit to lead us along. And Jim's got some opening things to say.
I just thought I would read what Kathy sent out to the Sabbatical Committee to get our thoughts and feedback, and I'll be mentioning some of those thoughts as we go along. But what Kathy said, what we should do is that this is the first of the three unpackings of our sabbatical summer. This week, it's the parish's turn to reflect on highlights, memories, learnings, insights, etc. What new experience changed me or opened my eyes, heart a little wider? What do I remember most? What worked well and might be here to stay? What do we wish might have been a little different? And of course, to mention the experience with Father Bob and how he influenced us throughout the summer. So that's kind of as a preamble, so to speak, to throw it out to the floor, I guess.
Yeah, and one encouragement, and that is, it's hard not to say, well, I like this, you know, but maybe not to say this was good and that was bad. That makes sense, because these are things that within our parish life is evolving, and to put value on them in that kind of way, I think can feel diminishing for some folks who might feel otherwise. Right? Does that make sense? But we do want to have just full experience, what you experienced. And where has God been in this? So if we talk about these things, the things that we felt, hey, I really feel moved by this, or maybe I didn't, you know, where is God in leading us and guiding us in this time? So, yes, weekends, Saturdays, Sundays.
Well,
yeah.
one thing that I did miss with Bob that you're so good at is the intermissions that we have, and you do all the announcements and things that you kind of know the people and all that so much better. And I like the announcements that you do and all. And Bob did great, but he just didn't know kind of some of the insights to the things. Yeah. So I'm glad you're back for that. That's always nice.
I'd like to make an observation. I'm so happy to have your voice back because Father Bob's voice would get a little soft sometimes. The volume varied a lot, and sometimes I couldn't hear him. And then Bob Dittler talks too loud. So you're just right.
Goldilocks. No, yeah.
Try filming his voice. In that normal.
For Bob? Yeah.
No, Detler, yeah.
Detler, yeah, that's funny. Well, and I do the same thing. I think sometimes my voice drops. I hear this, especially on Saturdays, that sometimes my voice will drop and it's hard to catch things. And so, yeah. What else? What else about weekends?
Two hymns that I miss.
Okay.
Father Bob really liked singing the doxology every Sunday.
Mhm.
Well, I like that we sang a hymn at presentation time
Okay.
before you left. And then we've always done a communion hymn. And every guest priest that we ever had would skip right over that, even though it was in the
Yeah,
bulletin.
right.
And so that got dropped. So I'd love to see a hymn at the presentation and a hymn after communion.
Well,
Makes the
I know that
service
there are
longer, but-
varying ideas and thoughts
Yeah.
about all this. So let's open this up. Let's first talk about the doxology. It's called the presentation hymn, right? This is what we are presenting our gifts to the altar with.
Yep.
And so what are other people's thoughts about that?
I like the doxology.
Mhm.
I really like that. Yeah,
I love it.
I like it.
I really like doxology.
And we did two versions. We did the Hallelujah version of the doxology sometimes, and then we just did the.
Now, what is the Hallelujah
you know,
version? Oh,
To the tune of what our processional hymn was.
oh, right. yeah.
yes,
Yes.
yes, it was.
So we had that when we started.
Praise
Mhm.
God. Whom all bless. Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we vary the setting, that would make me happy. Just not to sing it the same way every Sunday.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
The thing I like, sorry, Katie, I like not having that hymn afterwards, because you go right to the, your prayer of, what's it called?
That-
Oh, the
post-communion
post-communion
prayer.
The
prayer.
post-communion.
Let's
prayer.
talk about let's talk about the presentation first, and then we'll come around to the post-communion.
Okay.
Any other comments about the doxology is a presentation? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So any other comments about that?
I like
I like
having the hallelujah after. It's just a nice soft lead into in what you said.
Got you for we were to do the doxology to have the hallelujah version of that.
Yeah. and
It's
that's
just
enough.
one word at the end, but it's.
Well, it was actually throughout the.
Was it?
Mhm. I think it had two hallelujahs in the front and two or three in the end. I've got it saved on my computer somewhere that Kenny and I worked on it.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm like,
It changed, but you see.
It's got some hallelujahs.
that would change, right, Lent, you
You
would not
can't
be.
do that during Lent, and I guess we leave off holidays and Advent.
No,
Do we
no,
not?
Advent
Okay.
has always been treated like a mini Lent, and it really is. And so that's trying to correct some of that. Well, let me just make a quick comment about the presentation hymn itself, and maybe not trying to sound too pedantic here, but just to, what its function is for me as a priest. And it is our praise, it's our thanksgiving to God. And certainly the doxology is all about that. Right?
Mhm.
And you like the familiarity of it, it sounds like to me. Is that
Yeah.
fair to say?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think those of us who come from other religious backgrounds really like the doxology.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly right.
That's my roots.
Well, and here's the thing, right? Same thing every Sunday. And so there's a couple of things to kind of think about as we talk about these things. I try to keep a couple of items the same or pretty close to the same in our services. They're almost like little touchstones throughout the service.
Mhm.
And other things may be moving and changing, but you know what? We're gonna do. Those psalms can be chanted to a lot of different ways, but we always, for 8 years now, since I've been here, we've been using the same one, right? The Gloria, typically, one or two kind of things that we kept there. Part of the thought process is not only what I like, but what do others like? Because we are also welcoming people into our community. And so that's just another thing to kind of be keeping in mind. And part of what I am discovering as we, as a large church, are looking at shrinking a countercultural instead of a cultural presence as Christians. What are people looking for, or what are they not looking for? And this is a much larger conversation. And this is not to say that we are not going to continue in our traditional Episcopal ways, but that is oftentimes something that people push back against. And it can be a bit of a barrier. And so to just also be thinking about those things as we want to maybe kind of keep things a certain way. Yes, Connie.
From a filming standpoint, I just, I myself have noticed when we sing those songs that everybody knows,
Mhm.
such as the doxology, our viewers can hear us sing.
Yes.
But, and sometimes like when we've changed, the song and it's something a little different or some that, anyway, I don't know all the names of the different ones, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
But,
Like the one.
I can hear everybody stumbling over the tune. And we get a lot softer
Mhm.
in our voices. And I have to think of the filming side, the people that are watching us too.
Right.
And if they don't hear us singing, it gets real slow or, the soft so the familiar things
Like the
like
service
that.
music song.
Yeah, the
Yes.
familiar songs. I
Lamb
don't
of
know if
God,
y'all
the Holy,
noticed,
Holy,
but
Holy.
everybody's singing very, very
Today's was
joyfully.
weird. Today's
And
And
was
sometimes we're not.
We have certain restrictions during
Yeah, first
certain
one to be
seasons.
Right.
You know, our pool of hymns is to be a bit narrower and added. For example,
Mhm.
I
yes,
think though, with hymns that we're familiar with the tune, then all we have to do is look at the words. I mean, if we're trying to look at the notes and read the music and learn the words at the same time,
Yeah.
it's hard. And that's on Saturdays when I go there also. Sometimes nobody sings.
Yeah.
Right.
It's silent because,
Yeah.
you don't hear anybody singing and I do hear
our voices.
Yeah, I think we did sing out a lot this summer.
mhm.
Mm.
Time, and maybe you've seen this in the past with me, is when we do our favorite hymns, right? And I'd ask you all the-
Yeah.
I've got a great list of hymns that you all given over the last, pre-pandemic years, and we can pile those things in there, you
Good.
know?
Yes.
And do. Now, another piece of that, however, and this is just for me, is if we're not really cutting out music at the presentation, but it's just one verse of a hymn. And I love to sing, and I love to hear us, and so that's something to consider.
And I think everybody likes to sing and all, but you have to kind of pace it since we're not a choir. We're not
Yeah, right.
professional. I like singing, but if I have back-to-back hymns, it's like, well, my voice isn't gonna carry that.
I see, okay, okay.
And we don't have a choir to lead us.
Right. And especially the
Help us
post communion, I know in a lot of churches, you have the choirs mainly singing the post communion and during communion and.
During communion.
Right.
Well, okay, well, let's talk maybe a little bit about now, back to your point, Vicky, about the post-communion hymn. You said you prefer not having that,
No, I like going right to the prayer.
right to the prayer.
I mean, it's right after communion and it's right to your prayer.
It allows you that moment just to reflect back on
Yeah.
communion. You're kneeling, you're saying your prayers for your week, you're getting your thoughts together that aren't interrupted by a hymn and then a short blessing and then another hymn.
I've been at churches where the hymn is sung during communion,
Okay.
Right.
actually singing, granted,
Yes.
while you're going up, you can't
Well,
sing, but you come back and
We're
you.
too small for that.
Those
Half
larger
the people are
churches.
standing up in the
Well,
aisle.
I know, but I'm just saying
Well,
that.
Yes, exactly.
Well, this is
That's
what I
just
discovered when I first got here,
But I
Kathy.
like the quiet, pardon?
Part of what I discovered when I first got here was Doug Keith would often sing something during the communion time, right? And it was non-participatory for the congregation altogether.
Mhm.
And the post-communion hymn, I've got a pretty strong opinion about. It is the linchpin of the service. It's what pulls it all together. Its function is to say, we've done all of this, and this is us singing whatever that is, whatever that theme that might be what we've been kind of about for the service. And I think it's preferable to be able to sing that during communion itself. That really is the idea of our communion hymns. But to your point, one group is heading up, one group is receiving, another group is sitting down, and none of us are seated and able to actually sing much of the hymn at all to try to do it that way. And so I started having this post-communion hymn as an idea of thematically pulling everything together for the service. And having us all be able to sing it together. And if we leave that out, we lose a lot of hymns, friends. We lose a lot of hymns.
I've never heard you, give that, that.
I haven't talked about why I do what I do.
And I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah.
It's a big piece of picking up music. The presentation hymn, you know, I like just varieties of praises, the ways of offering praise and that kind of thing. But the post communion hymn is another. Now let me ask you this. So today, for example, we had communion and Hugh was playing music. And then we went into the post communion prayer, right? And there is silence. There was time to be collecting ourselves. And there was time for the prayer. So was that adequate time or not adequate time for the prayer that you're looking for? If we didn't have a post communion prayer, are we looking for more space? If you didn't have a post communion hymn, are we looking for more space?
Between the communion music from the organ and
the beginning of the post communion prayer.
prayer.
So and Jim, to your point, if whether we are singing it during communion or we're waiting until afterwards, we're still singing, praying, singing. That's what most Episcopal churches do every week. So the question I have is, I'm a big fan of silence, friends. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
Is that what we want instead of that music?
I like the silent one, just for my own self, and to be right.
And while the organ's praying, when I sit down, that's when I pray. I like that. And it's not silent, but it's still a separate time for me to make my individual prayer.
How about other folks that haven't had a chance to speak? I know Katie
Sharon.
likes to have the music. Yeah, sure.
And I love music, and I love to sing, but to me, those hymns are too close together. And a lot of times there are too many verses. I don't know if maybe you could cut out maybe the recessional hymn, maybe not sing 5 verses, I hate to disagree with Katie because I know we both love music. But I have found it to be almost too much. It's like, I don't know. And
Right.
maybe it may have something to do with the particular hymns, or it could be how many verses we're singing. I don't know. But to me, I kind of like the way it is now, but the not having it.
Yes, to know.
I'll be very blunt. I don't like it.
You don't like what?
Like, when I come back from communion, I want to pray. I don't want to come back and pray a minute, then have to sit down and get up my thing and look at the thing, do it, and then say a couple of prayers. Then I would just assume, but I don't know. You were the first priest, I think, that has ever introduced that.
At least here.
Here, but in our other church we went to for 20-something years, we never had.
You didn't sing during communion itself?
No, because we had a smaller church too in Covington. It was bigger than this, but it was still small. You couldn't get, people coming and going, and there's not that many cities. I don't know. I just like to do communion. I love the organ during communion. And if we had a choir or somebody like when Doug, do you want to sing?
And then I was looking for it was a participatory kind of music, but it's creation to
I just
participate in.
enjoy the
Yes,
quiet or
absolutely.
just the organ going so that I can kneel and get my thoughts together. And then we can do the processional hymn with, even 5 verses.
I'll do 5 verses.
I don't get fun like my wife, but I would like to say
Got
something.
you.
In the same discussion about the time after you come back from up there with the wonderful thing we do, the last ones up there, if they got back and started singing right away, they don't have any time to say that what they want to say. The time that the first ones go up there, they have a lot of time when they're knees to thank God for what they've done and all their wonderful prayers they want to say. But if you're the last ones to go up to the rail, you're not gonna have any time. Soon as you sit down, the music starts.
Well, as a back row participant at the cathedral, with a lot of people in front of me, I had a lot of time ahead of there to have my prayer time. And so sometimes it works out that way
It's
also.
better to pray after you've been up there than it is before you go. It really is.
Well,
Thank you, God, for letting me be there.
and I'm listening to all of this. I really am. And this can become the only thing we talk about easily.
Yeah.
And so I want to try to kind of keep an eye on our times. And I'll be thinking a lot about this. I'll be thinking about maybe some both and of this, right? Instead of an either or, that maybe we might have an occasional post-communion hymn, but it feels like there's a strong desire for not having that on most occasions. So it's something to take in, and the doxology, I'm fine with.
As the organist, do we want that time between the organ music during communion and your your activities, getting everything? Do we want that silence
Or we have music playing?
where there's nothing and before we have our post communion?
That's maybe that. Again, I don't know too much on this, but yes, that's not a bad question while you all are here.
Yeah.
Would it be helpful to have music playing or to have just silence?
I like the music.
I
myself.
like the music.
The music.
I think it would be awkward if it's just dead quiet for a couple of minutes in there. That's it'd be awkward, but I love the music.
Yeah.
I think we all love the music and all, we just don't want to overdo it in some respects.
So this puts a lot on the organist, but perhaps where you have communion music, there you have two selections.
Okay,
And
depends
so
on what
that
you're playing
gives it-
and how
that
long it
gives us
lasts
that
and
time.
whether you can,
Yeah.
whether you can stretch or whether you can repeat, it
Sure.
all depends on what you play.
Right. Not being a musician, I don't have a clue.
It
But I
all,
don't know,
it all depends
know.
on what you play.
But it does serve a function, and you all bring up a point, about I think that the priest who supplied it thought it's there to cover. It's cover while you're moving around, right? And I take a very different view to all that. So that's well,
Could I say?
anything else about liturgy? Yes.
Talk about the service music.
Okay.
The reason that we had the quotation,
Yes.
was to have a set.
David Hurd and
Everything by David Hurd. And I loved having the information today about David Hurd.
Yes, that was Bob did that. I guess it was Bob that did that.
No, I did it.
You did that. Okay.
Oh, I loved it.
You will.
Well, he's a big fan of music, I know. So that
Yeah, and that was
The
fun.
info.
We had Friday and Gloria. He
Right.
wanted
Yeah.
a set of service music, all by the same composer.
yes, Connie.
While we're talking about the music, I wanted to bring up in the beginning of the service. Can I do that now?
Yes, yeah, sure.
Okay. About a couple of weeks after Father Bill left, we had a little reminder from Kathy about how chatty we've all gotten in once we come into the church. And that's because we all love each other. And it is, for me, it's like, oh gosh, it's Sunday family day and you want to say hi to everybody, but I forget it's supposed to be quiet too, so I'm probably the worst offender. But anyway, I thought it might be nice, and I asked Kathy at the time, and she said it was okay, if we asked the organist to play for a little while before the processional hymn, right? Yeah.
The prelude, yeah. There's like a
The
prelude in there.
I always get them all mixed up. Anyway, so you all might have noticed, we forgot to do it last week, but there's a little music playing, and then she pauses, and then she goes into her prelude. And that's to calm us down and get us ready. So just if you don't like that, by all means say something, but we thought it just might slow us down and quiet us down and get us prepared. So just so you know why that's the way it is.
Prelude, yes.
The pre-prelude.
What's that? The bell is rung here on Sundays after the prelude is over. Okay. Now on Saturdays, we do it beforehand, which was kind of that community's way of saying, oh, maybe this would be helpful because they were really chatty.
Yeah.
And so, and they would talk all the way through the prelude. And so to just, when the bell would go, it's like, okay, everybody just like to just kind of pulls it down. And then they sit and listen to the prelude. And then we start the service.
Maybe we
Maybe
could
we
ring the
should
bell
do that
one
on-
time before the prelude and 3 times before the service. That'd be our warning bell.
I think we could do it. I think we could do it. And this, what we're really talking about is just kind of embracing this idea that it's rare, friends, in our week to be able to go into a space, a sacred space, and be able to sit and pray as a community. And to try to really honor that as best we can and have our visits, because Connie, me too, it's, I want to say things to folks, and sometimes it has to be said because it's related to the liturgy. Sometimes, Bill, it could have waited till after, and so it's just, maybe just kind of hold that in our minds as we go forward and let the music do our work for us.
So we're gonna have a prelude to the prelude, or just.
Have a prelude to the prelude. If you don't mind.
Yeah, okay.
It's
7:30, right? So
But you do play well.
what else about
And it
Saturday?
does touch our
Sundays?
spirits.
Oh, it is.
I don't know if we've
Yes.
got a strong Saturday representation here, but what are the things have you been aware of? Changes, different things?
Let's go. Of how.
Are you asking about Saturdays
How we did
specifically?
this.
Sorry, no, Sunday.
Saturdays.
Yeah. I said, I was just noting that we don't have a strong Saturday presence right now.
So
So
we have to work harder. Not having it all printed into,
Okay.
So that's a question too, to throw out. Do
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
like that or not?
prayer book.
We've
Pinball.
got all those books, but it is a whole lot easier. I mean, even for lifelong Episcopalians to not have to switch books and have it all in. Now, has this been a money saving thing, not having to spend so much money on
The
paper?
history behind is we had an issue with the Xerox copier for 3 weeks this summer where it physically would not make copies.
Mhm.
And we had a backup printer in there that didn't print and needed, I don't know, $300 worth of ink. And then Jim came and looked at some other printers that were back in the old part of the building. And we resurrected the brother, realized you just have to set the counter back to 0 and put in some new toner. So for $60, we now have the black and white toner. But Bob really believed in using the prayer book and the hymn book. And so it was cost savings. For the vestry, I did present the cost savings that we get each week by not printing 22 pages of program and then throwing them away.
Mhm.
And that's money that we don't want to have to spend if we don't have to.
Yeah.
And then the Kellys did buy 20 brand new prayer books in an effort to support using the prayer books again. I do print 4 or 5 copies for visitors that have the full thing. I also do link it on the newsletter.
Mhm.
So if you're more comfortable bringing the full bulletin, it is linked Friday when you get the electronic bulletin
Yeah.
in PDF that you can print.
Okay, so we
Um,
printed it.
The service music insert,
Yeah.
the service music insert came as a result of the first week we didn't do the service music insert. And I was flipping back and forth and I realized people didn't even probably know what S meant.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that's become a no-brainer to do. And then, with the David Hurd pieces, all 3 coming from them, we added that at the beginning. So when we changed that, I can look at the bottom and see who did it. And I can, the Google is a fabulous place and you can find anything you need. And I will continue as a former educator to let you know where those pieces came from,
Okay.
or if there's anything significant about them, because I think that just adds to your appreciation of what you're doing. And I realize that people flipping back between S music and H music is a little bit challenging. And so that's easier just to put those in there and then put that as an insert in the bulletin. And actually I use the service music to mark my hymn for the next hymn.
Frankly, I print mine at home,
Mhm.
but if you do it at home, you only have to print 15 pages, not 21.
Well, you don't have
That's
to
4 or
print all
5
the-
pages you don't need for
Right,
sure.
you don't have to print the bulletin.
Yeah,
part.
you
just
save
have
a
to
lot
print
by that.
The service,
Why do
yes.
we have, why can't we have what we need in a bulletin type for the service? But
are there anybody that doesn't get email? You can read all that stuff about all that we're doing unless you're just lazy and don't read it. We don't need all of that every Sunday, do we? I mean,
Well, I can be honest. I'm new at this, so I
okay,
really shouldn't be speaking, but I can say when I first came and you gave me the full bulletin, for me to be in a new church coming from Baptist and Methodist, it was easier. But then, of course, I got confused because it would say kneel or stand. And I'm type who use my Holy Spirit, so I would stand. And then Mr. Les fussed at me one day and said, "You're not supposed to stand." After we have a dinner, and I was like, "Well, the papers say stand," and he made me go to my book bag, pull it out, and show him. But in the last month or two, when I got the thing with Miss Connie a few weeks ago, I was like, "Miss Connie, where's all the instructions?" And she was like, "What?" She showed me, but she was busy. But she came back and she said, "S is this." Me being a person that growed up in the church, I find it more exciting to use the books because it makes you look more like you're in a church and you're combining. But for the elderly people, I think they should have the bigger paper. That's why I like that she print out some, because they shouldn't have to go through all of that. You know, as we
I
get
think we have a lot
older.
of elderly
I
people.
There was no way you were gonna get away with that.
Prayer book and talking about elderly, I think elderly people need a challenge.
Yeah.
They need to have a prayer book and they need to keep their mind focused on this page and that page, because I'm better at it today than I was a month ago. At first I was all fumbling around and I've kind of got
better.
But I do feel that we do need to focus our mental abilities.
Well, and just to address the visual part of that, I know, frankly, you're working on getting some large print versions of the Eucharist.
Yes.
And
And we have 2 large print versions of the hymnal, and it just has selected ones. So what I do is I have that index. So for example, there were 2 songs that we sang today. If they're not in the large print version, I actually print them in large print and insert them in that. So whoever picks up the large print hymn book has the words, because I've been told nobody really needs to know the tune. They can hear the tune. They just need to be able to see the words.
see the word.
So I print those in 20-point font, and stick those inside of the blue large print hymn books. And
So-
right now I have
yeah.
2 of those. And if I need more, I just need to know. And then I have 2 large print Eucharist books that are back there in the back. It has been a little bit of a challenge trying to find, they're basically out of print, and trying to find some more. So I've been looking on that to try, and it has the Holy Eucharist and the prayers of the people. So it really has that part of the service that we participate in.
Right, yes.
Um,
Well, I know there are a couple more
Time.
questions or comments, but I do want to keep us moving along here because
Mhm.
we could spend 3 hours talking about our liturgy and what we like, you know, but yes. Whatever, I think you.
A comment on, and a recommendation on, the way we're doing it today is the way we did it for over 15 years at our last parish in Marietta. And I like it. I like the way you do intros to the songs that we're singing. It's longer than Hugh does. Therefore, I can join you on the first verse with your. But Hugh's are so short. You're usually on the second verse, but where I find the hymn in the hymnal.
That's a really good
That's
point.
very helpful.
Well, let me just comment that because we shortened the intros on Sundays because we had it printed in front of people already. Didn't need to go hunting for it, right?
I understand.
Yeah,
play the whole hymn.
you say the whole tune through,
Yeah.
and I forgot about that. So yeah,
Which, by the way, is really good for those who can't sight read, so.
We can go back to the whole hymn.
yeah.
But remind everybody that we didn't have to him, so at least we had it on the board, but that came about.
Okay.
Use the books.
Yeah, Jim, real quick.
No, so I was just thinking, in the brochure that we used to hand out, that was 20-some pages, whatever, if we took the hymns by themselves out of that, and, everybody used the hymn book for that, and you could still use the handout, that might be also kind of a hybrid that might help out on the paper printing as well, but the hymns are not really the problem. It's kind of the jumping around in the service. If you're in a pew with only 2 people, you have room to lay out all your books. You're kind of.
You're very good. You're very good.
It gets a little.
Good
it gets a
point,
little-
Gary.
That's a nice
Good point.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about the aspects of the sabbatical time around other aspects other than the weekends or our worship time? What about just other things? Connie, you got your hand up.
Yes, I would just like to bring up the breakfasts that we had. Initially, I thought it was a great idea from a church I used to go to, that I wanted to do this breakfast thing. And then we ended up doing it during the sabbatical. And I absolutely loved everybody being able to come down here and eat and spend time together. Because a lot of times we just stand here, have coffee and out the door. We really don't spend much time together. So of course, you know, for up to me, I'd say let's do it every Sunday, but we can't. I can't physically do it every Sunday. I loved doing it, but I want to say that the 3 Sundays that we did it, the participation was amazing. It was just fabulous to see this many of us come together and sit down and spend time together. Church was a lot more full. Brings more people. Oh, we got free food. So I thought that was good. But the last Sunday we did it, and we went to the brewery. If COVID had not hit, we had over 60 of our parishioners signed up to go to that.
Yeah.
So it shows that people do want to do things. So I thought it was really good. And maybe quarterly we could be doing some things together like that
Okay.
instead of monthly.
So instead of having an adult Christian education at 11 o'clock, we wouldn't have it. We would have our breakfast.
But only quarterly, Valerie. Only
Quarterly
quarterly.
makes
Well,
sense.
not every Sunday.
Well, I'm here to help you guys and I love you guys and hopefully I can further stay with you guys. I'm not the perfect person and I'm still in training and growing up. But I totally love you guys and I'm here to help, not to hurt. And that's the God on the show. And thank you guys for accepting me.
You bet.
The one of the really good things about the breakfast, you sit down, you have time with that group of people rather than say hi to this one, say hi to this one, say hi to this
So
one.
you were sitting down, your table set up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had tables.
Yeah.
And you have time to find out about those people, which is really a good. The fellowship.
The responses from the sabbatical committee, I don't know if I mentioned that Kathy sent out an email to get responses from all the committeemen. And all of the members echoed the same thing, is to have these church events probably quarterly. Because Connie and Ann did such a great job, but quarterly is about what you want to do, the breakfasts and the labyrinth walk. And then I call it the community events, like we did at the brewery, to probably do something like that on an annual basis. That would be, because we've done that. I did with the Oktoberfest is the only one I remember that we did that was a community.
That was fun.
Yeah, but that annual and quarterly and those kind of events, I think, was the consensus.
I was going with you, Father Bill, but I like him. When I came back and he was in the Christian education, to have somebody different that I really don't know his name, but I see him at church. I only been here, you keep up with it better than me. I think it's a year now. But it was like a big lift out of what I went through to have him sitting there directing the class and listening and giving, because sometimes it's better to hear other, but he's awesome.
Yeah. How about it's all right. The summer Bible study was it led by other folks every week, Jim, or was it did the most of the
mostly?
Okay.
No, Kathy did.
And John on Saturday.
John Fox on Saturdays. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But the participation, everybody that came, and we had good participation, and it was lectionary base, but we would only usually get through like one lesson.
Yeah, right.
Because of the lively discussion. It was enjoyable.
Yes, it was.
Well, let me throw
One more thing that just, because it just came up. What about the name tags? I like the name tags. I don't know
Yes.
if that's something we're gonna keep going with.
Oh, I think so. I think that was actually decided.
Because I'm
before the-
learning.
So, yeah.
We started that study that Father Bob said.
Well, let me ask you, what about a weekday Bible study that would happen all year round?
Oh, yes.
Would that
Oh,
be
that'd
something
be
that anybody would be interested in?
Yes, I think that would be great.
Yes.
Well, let's work on that. And by work on it, it means maybe those who might be interested either meet or give input about time and place and what would work with schedules, so we can try to maximize something like that. Because, summertime we do the Bible study. During the rest of the year, we have other topics that we do in adult Christian education. And I know that the Bible study is very popular. And I love it,
We used to have a Wednesday service. And
Right.
it'll be a good time to do it.
That might be, yeah, so I'll put that on my radar and we'll try to have a gathering at some point of folks who are interested, either in person or with Zoom or a hybrid of that, so we can kind of work on our schedules and what our desires might be. Okay. Other thoughts you might have had. There was some monthly Eucharist brought, I think, to the Glen, and I heard from Bitsy about that was something that was really enjoyed. I don't know if y'all knew that was happening. Did you
Well,
know?
we went once. Bob and I
Okay.
went once to the Glen and we had probably maybe 7, 8 people. There are apparently some Episcopalians there who live there who are handicapped, unable to get to church. And they had requested an Episcopal communion rather than the non-denominational one they have.
Right.
there. So, and they wanted to continue it monthly.
Well,
So I hope we will.
just so you all know, when the Glen first opened, I went by and I said, hey, how about we have she said, get in line.
Oh.
Well, it was the idea
Yeah.
that every church had been knocking, and they weren't even open yet when I swung by, but I understood what she meant. It was more or less, let us get a little settled here.
Jamie was very accommodating and glad to have us there.
I'm sure.
And so she'd welcome us. Well, and we had a room upstairs. It's empty. They call it the small dining.
Okay, yeah. See, in this.
We can't hear Ann back here when you
I
talk.
can't. Oh, I said, we use the
Glen.
room upstairs that, at the Glen. It's
At the
not
Glen.
used for anything else
Yeah, good.
on that day. And it was a good place. We had that big, nice home communion kit, the big one.
Right,
That
yes.
we used. And another thing with home communion, Bob took one of us with him
Right,
when
yeah.
he went out. Connie went and I went, and I like that.
Okay.
So.
Are there other folks who might be interested in going to bring home communion to people? We got 4 pretty much that we do every month. And
Awesome.
Massman and Bree Kelly the first week typically, and then we've got Yvonne Jordan and Sophie.
We live there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's
use me. I don't know what to agree to, but just use me while I'm here.
that's a further drive. Bringing it to Sophie and to Yvonne is almost a day commitment because they are down close to Decatur, and so it's a drive.
It was a different day for each one, that we did it.
Oh, you did it on a different day? Yes. And I link them together, and because drive down and what have you. But if anyone is interested in doing that with me, I think it's great. The idea is you bring the church, the church is coming and not just the person with the collar.
Amen.
Yeah. And we always have really interesting conversations. We really do.
And having experienced that during a period of time, it is just.
Yeah. Serving. Anytime you're serving is awesome.
All right. Well, other things. How else did you find God moving you in this time?
Wouldn't really it was very personal, but during the time we lost our grandson, and when our daughter called us that morning, Jimmy called Bob immediately because we've known Bob for 44 years and he married both the kids, baptized one. And to have him come over immediately, you just can't imagine how wonderful it was, because without you being here, if we'd have had nobody, it just made all the difference in the world. So I guess the continuity of having someone here for 3 months.
Well, and Bob and I talked about this because I think it was a little, he wasn't sure, she let me know, and my response to him was, he is the priest that you all needed.
Yes.
No,
Well, I
has been
told him,
close
yeah, don't bother you, and he was here, we buried some of his ashes because he and his twin brother were both baptized here.
Yes.
When they were 6 months old, because our daughter, they lived in Europe and they didn't have a real church and she wanted the family. So the boys were baptized here at 6 months. So I wanted some of his ashes to be here. So we buried him in the same spot with our son. So just having the continuity of having Bob, especially, but it would have been this, just having the same priest.
Yes.
I just thank God. Some parishioner, I won't mention her name, she said, if you and Jim never do anything else at Redeemer, you got a star in heaven for getting Bob to come down here. So,
And you know what? I was meeting him for the first time. I had just got out from being incarcerated for 3 months. God took me away when he took Father Bill away. And then he brought me back, and I thought I was coming back to him. But when I came, he was up there. And in the middle of our meeting, you called. He said, I don't mean to be rude, but I have to take this. And you were thanking him. And I was in tears because he was enlightened to confirmate you in that conversation. And he was an awesome guy.
Well, y'all's relationship really created a immediate connection with Father Bob for the entire congregation. I thought. I mean, I can't imagine if anyone else that could have come in that way.
And I felt that the same way, just in preparation with Bob. It's like you're all connected.
Jimmy just mentioned it to him, and joking, saying, we're not going to have a priest for 3 months. Why don't you come down and just, like he was.
I asked him if he'd even give it some consideration. You know what happened? When he got up off the floor, he said, I think I will.
Well, Jim first mentioned it to me, I thought, that sounds a little far-fetched. We'll just get somebody from the diocese. Well, there's, of course, it was exactly what we needed.
But he did tell me y'all's first conversation, you thought he lived in Decatur, Georgia.
I did. I did. Yes.
Well,
we were blessed.
He thinking about leaving back.
He loved it, and I think this is the first time that since he retired in Kentucky that he has done any kind of supply work or doing anything
behind an altar.
And I just think it totally invigorated his life.
Thank you guys for bringing him here.
Well, it was God.
It was a God thing.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of kept us together more than it would if we had to try to get a supply priest or just do morning prayer, evening prayer.
Oh, yeah.
And his background, his interest in similar things, I mean, it really could not have been, as you all know, it could have been really different. It could have been really different. So, just have a body here,
Mr. Kleiner?
I want to say something too to you all, to everyone here and those that you are not here. I was really nervous about a new priest coming because I've only had two now, Father Joe and Father Bill. So, oh gosh, here I go. I got to get used to somebody else. But you all did such an amazing job keeping Father Bob, making him a part of our family. I mean, everybody was having him for dinner, taking him to lunch, bringing him meals. I mean, no wonder he loved us. Because of, but because of how we just took him in. Like we embraced him like he'd been here forever. And so I want to thank all of you. get to bring him to my house because I don't ever get to bring anybody. But it was wonderful. And I think having him here and what we all did, I was very, very, very excited and pleased about how we all stayed so close over the last 3 months.
We came closer
We were
when
gonna
we
go
met.
this way, but instead we bonded this together really well. So
That's a
thank
good
you all
point.
Yeah.
for joining in on everything, because it was wonderful.
And he loved your cottage. I think he was almost reluctant to let you come back.
You know, for folks who don't know about my cottage very well, it is built in 1844. It's about 1.5 foot thick brick walls, and it just is a brick oven in the summertime. And because he was coming, I negotiated some upgrades on the air conditioning, you know, with the landlady, and she put in these ductless systems that, you know, it has transformed that space. and yeah, and I had an 8-window unit and fans, you know, and I was spending a lot of money every month on that thing. I haven't gotten a bill from her about the utilities at all. And it's so I think I've also benefited from that. Yes.
I hope they put heat in for you too at the same time.
Well, it's a
It's a heat. That's
it
the
does-
splits do both.
Yes.
You don't have to freeze it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anything else? We are almost at our time. We've got about 5 more minutes, and I don't want anything left unsaid. Kathy included here Labyrinth. I think there was a Labyrinth walk that happened, and
I think we have all that space out there.
yeah.
It'd be nice if we had a permanent labyrinth of some sort.
Labyrinth.
I don't know, paint it on the driveway or
It's
turn up a garden
It can be
and
done.
plant hedges. I don't know.
The garden board I'm with you.
Huh? Oh, well, but I mean, I don't know, it would really be nice.
Yeah.
And that, if it were always there, anybody who wanted to come and just be contemplating and meditating, could come and do it. I think it would be nice.
Amen. That's
Mhm.
right.
Let me say one more thing.
Yes.
This woman right here.
Oh, please,
Come
God.
on.
Thank you, Lord.
I'm surprised to say it.
We are so blessed to have her in our presence. And I mean,
Miss Sassy.
honestly, she just kept it all together. She was our leader. So
Mhm.
thank you.
Thank you, Brinkley.
Love you.
Anything else?
You can't do that again for 8 years, can you?
You're already planning on the next one, right? So next week I will have a presentation. I will do my best to get things consolidated into an hour. It's actually pretty hard to try to talk about all of the things that I would like to share with you all. But I will work on that and make sure that I get that done. And then the following week, we're just gonna kind of talk about maybe some major themes that are kind of being lifted up in all of this and what, if anything, that might mean for us going forward. All right, well, how about that doxology, huh? How about if we might have a little sing along with that? The head on our way. Together. Praise God. All creation is
Very good.